Hey, it's Joey Tries Finance. Have you ever wanted to see the future? I most certainly have. Although it isn't possible for you to see the future, it is very possible to have either fear or confidence in it, especially in regards to the economy. In this video, I will break down the indicators of the economy. This includes the items in their groups that affect or are affected by the economy, but we will also discuss what causes recession and how to read the future. Indicators are statistics that help economists and investors to understand financial information as well as economic trends. These indicators are defined as leading, lagging, and coincidental. Leading indicators point towards the future and show what direction the economy is heading in, and lagging indicators are a confirmation of the assumed direction the economy is going in. Said assumptions are made by the leading indicators, and lastly, coincidental indicators show the present state of the economy. Now, here are some examples for leading indicators. Yield curves, which is a graph displaying how the yields on debt instruments change based on their length to maturity. An upward slope often means expansion, while an inverted yield means short-term rates exceed that of long-term rates, and this is often post-recessions. Then the housing market increasing means builders are building homes more, and construction in general has begun. So then, therefore, there is more projects, and it takes a long time to make houses. So this often points in a positive direction for the economy. PMI, or Purchasing Managers Index, is a survey on the health of manufacturing and service sectors from private sector companies, and when there is a score of 50 and above, that often means expansion, and a score below 50 often means contraction. Now, the money supply, which is the overall money that is active in circulating the economy, increasing the money supply obviously means growth, and decreasing the money supply means a contraction. And increase of the money supply also often causes inflation. We will get more on how it all connects later. Now for lagging indicators. The first indicator of which we will talk about is the unemployment rate. This is where an increase in something is not good, since an increase in unemployment is not good, while a decrease is good, since we want more people to have more jobs. When fewer people have jobs, they make less money, and thus there is less money circulating the economy. This stat often affirms what the leading indicators present when they point in a direction of growth or contraction. Now we have the CPI, or Consumer Price Index, which measures changes in inflation. Assume that the money supply seems to be shrinking, and if someone wanted to confirm this, that the economy is slowing down, they could look at inflation rate. And if that's going down, that could reaffirm this theory. The government changes the federal funds rate, which is how much it costs banks to borrow from each other overnight, and they do this by increasing interest rates on this metric to control inflation, to reduce the devaluing of the American dollar. Now for some examples of coincidental indicators, being personal income. When it's higher, it often coincides with a stronger economy. Lower personal income often coincides with an economy struggling. Meanwhile, global domestic product, or GDP, showing the percentage of change each period coinciding with recessions. Now for types of goods. Capital goods is the first of these. This is machinery, buildings, and equipment. These are goods used to make other goods, and they have a longer time horizon than other goods, since they're investment made to make all the other goods we will get to later. Consumer durable goods are goods made for consumers using capital goods to make things like cars and appliances for people. These goods are often more expensive, so people buy them less when they have less money. Now for consumer non-durable goods, these are products consumed quickly like food, probably the best example for this, and other types of drink, disposable items that are often less expensive and you simultaneously need or have grown a need for them to exist. And then now we also have services. These are intangible acts performed by consumers like a haircut, a car repair, a legal advice. This one is harder to interpret when it declines or does well, since in America people get used to a service and have a harder time losing a service, even when they financially shouldn't. One of the best examples is COVID, where DoorDash and Uber Eats exploded because people were too afraid to leave their home, and now those delivery services have a massive level of control over the delivery food industry and fast food in general. Now to talk about cyclical, counter-cyclical, and defensive securities and the products that they push and why they are considered these things. Cyclical, more volatile and perform very well when the economy does well. It's cyclical, it follows the cycle, but perform poorly when the economy isn't. This is your consumer durable goods type products like cars and appliance manufacturers that don't perform well unless the economy is. And simultaneously, these are discretionary companies that are where people spend a lot of money at when they have a lot of money, like Disney and Starbucks, that deliver goods and services. And now we have counter-cyclical being the opposite of cyclical, as these stocks perform well when the economy isn't doing well. The best example of this is gold, as gold performs well during the economy downturns, as it is a physical asset. That is what the dollar is supposed to be based upon, and this is often what people invest in on economic downturns. And now we have defensive. These are products less affected by the ebb and flow of the economic cycle and thus don't expand amazingly, but don't go down ridiculously either. These are consumer non-durable goods like cigarette companies, food, beverages, utility companies, and hospital. All things people need regardless of the economy or think they need. And putting all of these concepts into one bin, you can understand what things are best when the economy is doing best, and then what are best when the economy is not doing well. And this way you can understand how your money gets affected by the economy, but then also learn how to utilize the economy for your best interest. Now, putting all of this information together, what does all of it mean? It expresses how the economy is connected and how changes in one location can lead to changes in another. The economy and the monetary policy the government uses by controlling the federal funds rate. Let's look specifically at these previous recessions so we can get a better example of this. To affirm this process and look at why these events occurred. Remember, a recession is a great decline in the economy of 6 months or more, or 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. Now, for the most recent recession, all of you reading this should remember the COVID-19 recession of 2020, or those of you listening to this being an abrupt recession, almost being one of the shortest lasting recessions in history. It was caused by isolation and quarantine, causing unemployment to increase, drastically reducing the flow of money or money supply in the economy. This recession was additionally shortened by the $5 trillion in pandemic relief and the lowering of the federal funds rate by the monetary policy of the Federal Service. Since then, the interest rates have been higher, and only recently have they been lower, just within the last month, leading to an economic growth. Who knows? Now for the Great Recession of 2007 to 2009, being one of the deepest since the late 30s. U.S. housing market triggered a financial crisis. Too many people had owned mortgage-backed securities, which was assumed everyone would pay their mortgage, so how could it ever go down? So a lot of money was invested in it, and it led to a bear market. This is where People are selling because they think it's going to go down, 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 and everybody wanted to get out. This led to fewer companies were building buildings, and actually a lot of the homes people didn't pay their mortgages on went to the banks, and the banks started selling homes for dirt cheap. This is when you could get a house that cost $600,000 now for $9,000. My goodness. And the government helped with this problem instead of pumping a ton of money into the economy like in 2020 recession. The monetary policy expressed as quantitative easing, where the Federal Reserve reduced interest rates and purchased things to stimulate the economy. Although recessions aren't wonderful, the business cycle requires resets. In order to improve the economy, sometimes it must fail or falter, so that some progress can be made to reset the scales. The COVID recession was made short, but many economists expected a recession soon due to the need for a reduce in inflation and a reduction of the overall cost of things in the economy. Many things influence the economy's ebbs and flows. Hopefully, when you next see that the unemployment is going down, and then a few weeks you see that the money supply is also increasing, you would suspect the economy is doing fairly well. And you will see that in your personal income along the way. It is important to be educated and understand why things happen. And that's, at the end of the day, why we study history, so that we won't be doomed to repeat it. If you enjoyed learning about this stuff, please subscribe for more. And please give me more of your feedback down below. God bless. And remember, knowledge is power.